Whatever you do, don't go to culinary school, and I'm going to tell you why. That just because you have a diploma or a certificate from a culinary school does not mean you know how to run a kitchen, does not mean you know how to really cook, does not mean you're a chef. Going to culinary school to learn stuff that you can get paid to learn makes no sense. Culinary school is very expensive. So when the average student graduates with about $30,000 to $35,000 worth of debt, and you're only getting a $12 an hour job, how long is it going to take to pay that back? They enter a restaurant, and then now they have to go through more training to train in that environment, that menu, under that kitchen manager or chef. A lot of culinary students have this unrealistic expectation of who they think they're going to turn into once they get out of culinary school. You're not going to be Gordon Ramsay, you're not going to be Rachel Ray. It's very unlikely for these things to happen. Think about it, you're going to come out with all this debt, and you're going to waste, I don't know how much time while you're there. The same amount of time you could spend it with a business broker or a business owner, a restaurant owner, you'll get way more out of that opposed to going to culinary school. A lot of these culinary schools are for profit. All they care about is creating these loans that you can't get out of. You're coming out of school with all this debt, and you're going to have to pay that back because it's a personal guarantee. You're going to want to go find money to go open a restaurant. What's going to happen most likely is you're going to get out, you're going to go find out that working in the kitchen sucks. You're making $12 an hour or less. You're working all these hours on your feet. You're working with people you don't want to be around. And then you're going to realize, I want to be my own boss. I want to start my own business. Then you realize at that point, you need money for that. So what I'm getting at is focus the same amount of time that you're going to be going to culinary school, go focus on trying to find the money for a restaurant. But first, I would suggest the apprenticeship, the internship. Find out if a restaurant's really for you. Secondly, go find the capital. Your skills of raising money is more valuable than anything else. One prime example is there's a Netflix series called Chef's Table. Highly suggest go find that docuseries. But the common theme amongst all the episodes is that all the chefs became their own boss. They all had the entrepreneurial spirit. Somehow they found the money, and maybe the operations they opened up wasn't too capital intensive, but it did require some money to open up these operations. Because of that, they were able to express themselves, have more control over the business, more control over all the facets of a restaurant, make a name for themselves. 99.99% of you guys going to culinary school, that's what you're after. Well, let's not dilly-dally about it. You're going to want to be famous. That's the whole point. Someone saw Food Network and they thought they were going to be this famous chef. As a restaurant manager for 15 plus years, I've seen all these culinary students come out and they all think they're going to be badass, and then all of a sudden they get a rude awakening because they realize working in the kitchen is not fun. 75% of them want to become front of house managers because they want to stay in the restaurant industry, and the other 25%, I don't even know what they do. They just go off and just become Amazon drivers or whatever it is, lateral movement that they figure out. So that's what I'm getting at. This is a very dangerous point in your life. Do not spend the money on culinary school. When you go to culinary school, you're very limited in your options. You're basically a line cook. As a line cook, you can put in your hours, you can be as dedicated and committed as possible, and then you just gotta knock on wood that someone ahead of you in the pecking order either quits or gets fired, and then therefore you can get moved up, and you might get a bump in pay. Do you like speaking English? Do you like people speaking English right back to you? Do you like going to work and speaking English? Well, if you work at a kitchen, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to get used to speaking Spanish or some other language. One thing you have to be aware of is that the competition for being a line cook, which is the entry level for a culinary student, it most likely won't put you on, depending on the operation, how large scale it is, maybe you'll do some prepping, but most likely they want to see whether you can cook or not. Because the people that didn't go to culinary school laugh at the people that do, because you're there, begging for this $12 an hour job, and they don't understand why you just paid this much money to earn $12 an hour. So you got to think about, why is it $12 an hour? I mean, it's maybe more or less, but I'm just using $12. Why is it $12 an hour? Because there's so many people available for that job. How many Elon Musk are there? How many lawyers, doctors, engineers? How many of those are around? That's why they get paid so much. These people maybe were line cooks in their country, and they got here to the US, and of course, naturally, they want to go find a line cook job. And they're the ones that you're competing against. Why you're going to have the upper hand? Yeah, because you have a culinary degree. But most likely you get bumped up because you speak English. You understand the American culture better than the person that just got here. They probably cook better than you do. They're probably faster, more efficient than you are, but you're more likely to the promotion just because you're American born, not because of that culinary degree. You're still going to have to prove yourself on the cook line and see whether you can handle it or not in the middle of a rush on a Friday night with 50 tickets lighting up your screen. That's what I'm getting at. That situation where you're kicking ass on the line, putting all these people in their place, showing them how much of a badass you are, that's more valuable than the culinary degree in the eyes of the kitchen manager or the chef. They can care less whether you have a culinary degree or not. They don't care if you know how to do knife skills. They don't care about your measuring skills. They don't care whether you know some French words or not. They care whether you can handle 5,000 tickets, whether that steak's going to come out medium consistently or rare if they're asking for it, right? You need to know these things, and you're not going to be able to know these things until you actually do it. Doing one little module in culinary school compared to 20 tickets coming in at the same time between the hours of 6:30 and 8 o'clock, that's when they find out whether they want to be in this industry or not. I lied. Culinary school is totally worth it. If by culinary school you mean a bar, meaning you're going to sell alcohol, now that's worth it. I lied again. It's not worth it. It's too time intensive, too cash intensive. Save your money. If you made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm not trying to bash all culinary schools. I'm sure there's good ones. What I'm saying is, after so many years of seeing so many culinary students, I've seen these poor people in trouble because they have so much debt. If you happen to be one of these people, or you know someone that went to culinary school, just ask them whether it was worth it or not. If they say yes, they're lying to you. One way to help them is to just go help them raise capital. They're going to be much happier once they have their own location. And one way to ensure you have the profit margins you need to multiply the business is by having a liquor license.